Yeah, this talk will be about, Robin just mentioned it, improving the quality of your JavaScript apps by optimizing your developer experience. And I don't know if you are familiar with the term developer experience. I'm not talking about optimizing your own seniority level to go from junior to senior. So developer experience is a little bit different. I'll talk about it in a minute. So a few things. It isn't working. Of course, it's Windows. So a few words about myself maybe. I'm a freelance JavaScript developer. I'm a software developer since 2002. So quite some time already. I actually work with AMD. So focused on JavaScript in 2010, specialized in React in 2015. I've done a lot of React projects since then, and doesn't really work. Okay, so as Robin mentioned earlier, I published a book earlier this year about React. What's happening here? Presentation. There we are. I wrote this little book about React, which is currently translated by Sibylle, who's also here today. Follow her on Twitter. And so what is developer experience? So developer experience is equivalent to user experience on the developer side. So I guess you all know what user experience is. You want your users to have the best possible experience. And developer experience is just the same for developers. So it describes the experience developers have when they're using your software or SDK library, work with your API, or work with your code base. And this is pretty short what developer experience is. Now this thing is not really working. So let's do it like this. So why is developer experience important? So bad developer experience leads to frustration among developers. Frustration among developers leads to demotivation. Demotivated developers write bad code, and bad code will inevitably result in bad software, right? So this is why providing a good developer experience is important. So how do you spot bad developer experience? So there are many signs for bad DX. So inconsistent code base, code clutter, failing or slow builds, unnecessary complexity, bad documentation, outdated dependencies, technical debt, chaotic dev processes. The list could go on and on and on. And what is this?
Bad developer experience?
Bad presentation experience. So a few weeks ago, my friend Tejas, who's also here today, gave a talk at the React Conf, and he said something really cool. I like that. When the developer experience is good, usually the user experience tends to follow. So if you really work on your developer experience, and you really don't have frustrated and demotivated developers, and they like your code base and they want to keep the quality high, usually the user experience profits from that. And what that not means is you should not add this 5 megabyte bundle or this 5 megabyte package to your bundle because you like this amazing API. That is not what developer experience is about. So be smart and use it to create actual value. And so the key aspects, developer experience should serve the product and the user. It should always create the value and should not be done just for the sake of it. I mean, you can of course spend a whole day and trying to get the build time of your project down from 40 seconds to 39 seconds, but that's probably not really creating value. So, and you shouldn't prioritize DX higher than UX. So, so how can we fix bad developer experience? So basically there are two ways to improve the developer experience. One of this is processes. So I only want to talk briefly about processes. And the other one is tools. So processes are document what you're doing and why you are doing it. So when I join a project, and I do that quite often, the first thing I do is I ask for Git access and open the README. And then I do everything that's in this README and try to get the project up and running. And if it works, great, that's how it should be. If not, I go to a colleague and ask him for assistance to set up the project with me. And while we're doing that, I'm at the same time updating the README to add the missing steps so that the next developer can set up the project without any external help or any help from any colleagues. And yeah, you should try that at your own company. So maybe you check out a fresh version of or fresh repository and try to get the project or the app working just by doing the steps that are written down in the README and see if it works. So another thing is you should always work on branches. Use pull requests to merge changes and maybe even use pull request templates. GitHub allows that, and I think GitLab as well. Protect your master branch and establish a culture of code reviews. Believe me, your code will be so much better if someone else reviews it regularly. So you should never merge changes without them being reviewed before from someone else. And yeah, then automate all the tedious tasks, or generally automate whatever you can. So everything you can automate, you will save time. And yeah, every minute you save, you can spend on writing features for the actual product. So you should really automate when there is something to automate. So let's talk about tools. Robin also mentioned that. Prettier, that's probably the most valuable tool you can have in your tool chain. For those of you who do not know Prettier, it really automatically formats your code. So no more bike shedding discussions in pull requests if you should add a line break here, or yeah, add a little bit of indentation there, or put a semicolon there, or whatever. So it really allows for maximum consistency in your code base. You have no more pointless discussions about line breaks, as I just said. It reduces the mental overhead when you write code, because you don't have to think about formatting anymore. And that even reduces the risk of having merge conflicts, interestingly. And it really formats code in an understandable and readable way. It doesn't always format the code the way you would do that, or you think it is readable or most readable, but usually it results in a really readable and understandable code. So I just had to put this tweet on the slides, because that's actually the three stages of Prettier, and that's so true for me, and I know many others who are also like this. First you think, hey, why is it formatting my code like this? That looks really weird. And then the next moment, or after working with it for a day or two, you think, okay, I can get used to it, so maybe it's not that bad. And when you've worked a little bit longer with Prettier and you really got used to it, you're like, oh my god, I will never want to work without Prettier again. And that's really it. So Kenzie Dots said, if you don't like how Prettier formats your code, it's because you care too much about code formatting, and that's on point. So it's really, if you don't like how Prettier formats your code, you really care too much about formatting. So yeah, this is how you install it. Yeah, next tool is ESLint. Most of you probably know it, most of you probably use it. There are still people who are not using it. I have done a project last year where they were not using any ESLint rules. They were not even using ESLint, so there are still people using or not using ESLint. So quoting their own tagline here, it's a tool to find and fix problems in your JavaScript code, and it prevents you from making common mistakes while you're writing code. It catches them at dev time instead of runtime or build time. So you should really add this to your tool chain. So when we have a look at the small example, so this code looks quite okay, I would say. Someone may notice this typo in line 3, and this is how your editor looks like when you're not using ESLint. When you're using ESLint, the tool says, hey, we have 5 errors here, and we're importing something from a module that doesn't even exist, so we're not even using this module, so we have an unused variable. We have another unused variable because we have a typo in there. Then later we're trying to access the property of an undefined variable because we have this typo earlier. And then we even have an assignment instead of a comparison. And ESLint tells us all that and can even fix many of these errors automatically. So you should really use that. And it's easy to get started. You just install ESLint and run ESLint --init in your console, and you get a nice set of default rules. So the next thing is Git hooks. So yeah, they allow you to automate a lot of things in your code base that you would normally do manually, probably. So yeah, I recommend to use Husky. Husky's tagline is commit hooks made easy. You just install it as a dependency to your app, and it sets up all kind of Git hooks for you, and then allows you to write a really simple config file that lets you lint and format your files before you commit, for example, or run tests before you push, which some people like, some people do not, but it can sometimes be helpful. It can even update your node modules if a colleague added, updated, or removed any dependencies. So I don't know how you add dependencies or how it works at your company when someone adds a dependency in a pull request. I've seen companies who had a dev announcements channel where everyone posted, hey, I've just added a new dependency, so if you next time check out master branch or merge master branch into your branch, you should run npm install or yarn. And Husky can automate that for you using Git hooks. It's really great. And the config itself is simple. So you have this small JSON file with pre-commit and post-merge, and in this case, lint staged is run before every commit. And install deps post-merge is run after each merge. So these are also the next tools I want to talk about. So lint staged runs linters against staged Git files. So short explanation for those of you who don't know what that means. Stage in Git terms is whenever you git add a file. I don't know if that's 100% technically correct, but if you add a file via git add, the file is staged. And lint stage runs different commands on these staged files. So for example, you can say whenever a JS or a JSX, TS, TSX or CSS file is staged and you try to commit, you want to run Prettier on it so that these files are automatically formatted in the way you want to have it. Or ESLint, the same stylint for CSS files, it's the same, it's similar to ESLint but for CSS files. And lint stage lets you do that, and lets you do that in a very performant way. I was recently able to reduce the file, the time commit hook needed from 25 seconds to between 5 and 10 seconds, because every time someone made a commit, ESLint was executed and checked all the files in the complete repository. And by using lint staged, it was super easy to bring this time down to 5 seconds. So this one is probably the most underrated package on NPM. And as I already said, it lets you automatically install and update your node modules whenever something is something lands from master or from remote in your local repository. It only has 1,000 downloads and it should have hundreds of thousands. And really, this is my warmest recommendation. It really checks if the package.json log or yarn log has been changed, and if any of them were changed in the last merge, it runs yarn or npm install and automatically adds and updates all your dependencies. That's really helpful. And you just install it as a dependency as you normally would with any other dependency, and then add a post-merge hook to your Husky config. So really easy. Technical debt. Let's talk about how you can clean up the mess from the past. So for those of you who don't know what technical debt means, technical debt is a concept in software development that reflects the implied cost of additional rework caused by choosing an easy solution now instead of using a better approach that would take longer. So that's the explanation Wikipedia says. And I would say whenever you choose the easy approach over the correct approach, you're most likely writing code that will potentially make future work harder. So that's technical debt. And some examples for that are outdated dependencies or unused dependencies or to-do and fix-me comments. And outdated dependencies are quite dangerous, so they are a potential security risk and a source for bugs. And they get increasingly harder to upgrade the longer you wait. So if you try to update some package from version 3 to version 6, you will have to upgrade 3 versions full of breaking changes, and that can cost a lot of time. So you should always, at least once every 3 months, I would say, try to keep your dependencies up to date. So I usually do that monthly, but I think once every 3 months should be fine. So how do you do that? It's actually also pretty simple. You can run yarn upgrade interactive, and you get a list of outdated dependencies. You just check them, or check all of them, all you want to update, and then you hit enter, and yarn just upgrades all your dependencies. So there's a manual way you can run yarn outdated or npm outdated, and you get a list of all the outdated dependencies. You get a list of, or the list contains the version you've currently installed, the latest version, and all that. And you should really do that. So unused dependencies are, I would say, unnecessary noise. So they can slow down your npm install and potentially also your CI/CD. So that's not that critical, but if you have like 40 dependencies in your project, but you only need 30 of them, so it really can cost time. And how do you find them? There's another cool tool that's called depcheck. You run npx depcheck, and you get a list of all unused dependencies. So every package you have in your package.json that you are no longer using is listed in this list. But there's a small caveat: it often finds false positives for dev dependencies. So you should be careful with that. But for production dependencies, it usually works quite well. Never had any problems with that. So to-do and fix-me comments, probably the epitome of technical debt. So you do something, but you don't have enough time to do it properly. So what do? You leave a comment. So did that, but didn't work properly, blah blah. To do, fix it, or whatever. So when was the last time you actually fixed the fix-me, or did a to-do that you left in the code? Probably a while ago, or never, probably. So I did a quick search on GitHub yesterday, and there are 103 million results if you look, if you search for fix me. So that's a lot of code that was supposed to be fixed sometime, but obviously hasn't been fixed. So, but there's also a really nice tool for that, that's called Lizot, and you can run that, and it shows you a list of all your to-do and fix me comments with file path, line number, and description, and it looks like this. So you really get a nice overview of where all your to-do comments or fix me comments are, and you can generate a markdown file from it, and maybe even check it into Git, and so you can see what open to-dos you have that are not in Jira or in GitHub issues probably. So yeah, go and fix some to-dos. Yeah, summarized, there are hundreds of tools and services to optimize the DX and the quality of your code base. So I've only shown you a handful, but there are really a lot of tools. And I could probably give a whole day workshop, only present tools to you you can use to improve your developer experience. So yeah, it's easy to over-optimize, but try to find the middle ground. So working on DX improvements, as I said earlier, should always create a value for your company or your team. And yeah, aiming for good DX makes working with your code base really enjoyable, and enjoying work usually increases the quality of your code. So if you try to establish a culture in your company where everyone is aiming for good DX, and yeah, while trying to keep an eye on the time that is spent on DX, so as I said, you can spend a day trying to get the build time down from 40 seconds to 39 seconds, but yeah, as long as everyone is conscious about why DX is important, I'm pretty sure that your whole team will benefit from that, and yeah, all these things and all these tools and processes will eventually increase and improve the quality of your code and your app. So yeah, I guess we can go over to Bieh now.
Thank you.